So we got a really cheap bread maker, $38, 30 pounds, 1,380 baht. Is it any good? Yeah, we've already proved it is actually. But can it run on solar? Here's the Bluetti EB70. I've got it fully charged up. Yeah, topped out at the maximum. Can it run this to make a loaf of bread? We'll find out. We're going to follow the recipe here and weigh everything into the bread bucket. Always make sure the paddle's in there. We've already made that mistake once. I like to weigh everything into the bucket outside so you don't make a mess inside the machine in case you drop anything. And I do everything by weight, by grams. So the first thing is milk. 110 grams of milk. Notice my scale is accurate to 0.1 of a gram. So always get yourself a good accurate scale. Hello, what's wrong with the scale? There we go. That's on 110 grams. There's 110 grams of milk, and I like to add the wet ingredients first, especially if I'm baking it right away. Next is yeast and sugar, 26 grams of sugar. So I tear off that and add 26 grams of sugar. Twenty-six grams of sugar. Zero it out again and add yeast. One and a half grams. That's why it's important to have a scale that measures to the 0.1 gram, because you want about 1.5, not 2 or 1. You need 1.5. At least for my recipe you do anyway. 1.5 grams of yeast. So we've got the yeast, sugar, milk. We need 1 egg. 1 egg's going in. Tear the scale to 0. Salt, 2 grams. Two grams of salt. Butter, 26 grams. Twenty-six grams of butter. Now we need the last thing, I think, is the flour. Let's tear the scale to 0. We're going to add 240 grams. This recipe makes a loaf that weighs about 450 grams. Let's check we got everything. We've got flour, milk, butter, salt, egg, sugar, yeast. That's everything. So make sure the lip of the bucket is quite clean. We open this up and we're going to plug it into solar. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Put this in here first. Now we're going to make room. Over here for the bread machine. I'm going to plug into the EB70 alternating current, turn that on. You can see it's a full battery. How many watts is it going to use? I don't know. It says 500 watts on the machine. So I'm on program 1, which takes 3 hours, which is basic bread. The weight of the loaf is supposedly 750 grams, even though I said like it comes out at 450. And the color I want on medium, which it is. So all I have to do is press start, and 3 hours later we'll have bread. Start. And it immediately starts its kneading action. Mixing first. How many watts does this use? 5 watts, 7 watts. 5 watts, 7 watts. So it's alternating between 5 and 7 watts. It's settled on 6 then. So it's not using very many watts. I think it's baking at 500 watts. That means we might be able to do this on a full battery on the EB70. So let's come back in a few minutes and see what's happening. The wattage on the EB70 is fluctuating between 5 and 10 watts. So it's not using very much power at all. Okay, we'll pause it here and we'll come back once we've got some dough to look at. Right now it's just mixing. We'll come back shortly. 4 minutes later, and it's doing some aggressive mixing. And it's using 29 watts, 28 watts, 25 watts. And it's doing this faster mixing now. But it's still only using 27-ish watts, which is not bad. It's not using much electricity at all yet. So we'll come back in a few minutes and see what it's doing next. Right, it's been going 5 minutes. And it already looks like a dough ball in there. And it's spinning around aggressively. And how many watts is that using? Well, it's using 28. I don't know if you can see this in the light. Now it's 30 watts. 30 watts, 26, 27. So basically 30 watts maximum during this spinning around phase of the dough ball. And we're only 5 minutes in. We'll come back in a minute and see what's happening next. Okay, after 7 minutes, it's resting. It's just sitting here, so it's not using any electricity. 0 watts are going out, so we're looking good. Looks like we may be able to make it with a full battery. I don't know. What do you think? Is this going to be able to make a loaf of bread? This little tiny Bluetti EB70 with a 1000-watt inverter and 700 and something watts hours of power. Is it going to be enough to make one loaf of bread at least on the home bake bread machine? Let's find out. Right now it's looking good. We'll see later. We'll come back in a bit. Okay, it's sat there for about 10 minutes, letting the ingredients get to know each other and mix together the flavors while there were 0 watts, but now it started up the spinning dough what do you call it, kneading. It's kneading away, and it's using 28 to 30 watts while it's doing this. 28 to 30, if you can see that. The EB70 is still showing maximum charge, which obviously it's not at maximum, it's slightly below by now, but we're only using 26 to 30 watts. So this action still doesn't use a lot of electricity, and we're 15 minutes in. I think we're looking good. We'll come back in a little bit and see how we're doing then. Okay, welcome back. We're 22 minutes in, so 2 hours 38 till we get bread, hopefully, if the EB70 can make it. And right now it's using 25 watts, but it's still showing maximum charge, so we're looking good. What's the machine doing? Oh, it's kneading the dough. That's actually quite interesting, because if you look at it, it gets caught up in these little corners where this bump is in the pan. It spins around. Every once in a while it gets caught up, and that makes the kneading action work. It's actually quite amazing. I wonder who invented these. How come we don't recognize the man or woman who invented the bread maker? This is really quite good. Well, anyway, it's using 25 watts. So we'll come back in a little bit and see how we're doing then. Well, we're almost 40 minutes in, and it's doing something again. Ooh, look at the dough. It looks nice and smooth and fluffy. That's some good looking dough. Bread machines are amazing. You can watch this all day. How it kind of gets caught up and spins around in these corners where the bump is. And it cleans up all the flour from the bottom too, which is nice. Who invented these things? Whoever invented these should be recognized for services to humanity. And it's really working good with solar so far. What are we on? 23 watts. So it's not using much electricity, and I'm still showing full battery here. If you can see this in the sun, it's showing a full battery. So we might be able to get away with baking a loaf on the EB70 on a full charge. It's amazing that we're making solar bread, because everything comes from the sun, really. We charged this with solar. The milk and the butter came from the cow, which ate grass grown under the sun. The salt was crystallized from pools of seawater using the sun. The flour was grown using the power from the sun. So it's almost like everything revolves around the sun. Wow, maybe these flat earthers are wrong. Anyway, we'll come back in a little bit, because we got 2 hours 20 minutes to go, and it's spinning around doing its thing. Take a little break, come back in a minute. Quick update here, and it looks like we might make it. I'm still doubtful if we can do it on one charge, but yeah, we're still at full charge showing, and 0 watts right now because it's resting. Look at that dough resting. Wow. So we got 2 hours and 8 minutes to go. 2 hours 8 minutes, and so far the little EB70 working like a champ. 0 watts going out and showing full charge, so looking good. And why are we doing this? Well, we could do it because you're van lifing. You've got the EB70 solar generator and some panels. You can make bread. This little thing's compact. It's actually the same size roughly as the little EB70 that I've got. And the EB70 230 volt version has a 1000 watt inverter. So this one can handle 1000 watts. The bread maker only uses 500, it says on the base. So we'll see when it bakes how many watts it uses. But I think we're going to be okay making bread with this. We'll see at the end. But I'd say if you're camping and you've got car camping or van lifing, you can make bread. If you're on a boat, if you're on a sailing yacht, or one of those yachty people, you can make bread on your yacht. If you're in a hurricane zone and your power's out for 3 days, but you've got a solar generator, you've got a bread machine, you can have fresh food, fresh bread, make your sandwiches, waiting to be rescued. Okay, I'll talk to you later. We'll come back in a little bit and see how we're doing then. An hour and a half to go. I think we might make it with this battery, because look, the dough's resting again. The initial dough making and kneading doesn't use a lot of electricity really. It's only going to be the baking. So right now we're on 1 bar has gone down, so we've got 4 out of 5 bars on the Bluetti, if you can see that. So right now there's a lot of resting going on, and I think if we're lucky the Bluetti will be able to handle making the whole loaf. Maybe have a little bit reserved left, but we'll come back in a bit and see, because right now nothing much is going on. It's just resting and rising. Okay, we're back and 1:14 to go. So what's happening? Still not much except dough rising, proofing. So how's the battery doing? Solar battery, solar generator is still 4 out of 5 bars, and it's using 5 watts, if you can see that. Maybe there's a little bit of heating going on, and so we're probably going to be able to make a loaf of bread. It hasn't started heating the baking part yet, so that's the test. Once it starts baking, we'll come back then. Are we going to make it? It just started baking. It went up to 462 watts, 464 watts, and we got 39 minutes to go. Is the EB70 going to be able to do 460, 470 watts for 40 minutes? We're going to find out. Look at that, 30 minutes to go. Right now the EB70 is on 0 watts going out because it's doing one of these resting things. It comes on and goes off, comes on and goes off to keep the temperature right for baking, I guess. So the highest wattage I've seen, the highest watts, is 454 watts. Even though the box says it's a 500 watt machine, they're just rounding it up. So with the EB70, I knew the AC200 Max would do this no problem. But I thought, let's test it with this little EB70. So far, with 4 out of 5 bars, I think we're going to make it. It's going to be great. So this is going to be perfect for preppers, yachters, van lifers, because you think about it. You got solar panels. You can charge the EB70. You can make bread. There it is. Came on again. 466, 465, 464. So it doesn't use many watts. 465 watts, and we're making bread. Can't wait to see if it can finish the job in 29 minutes to go. It's just gone down 1 more bar, 3 out of 5 bars now. We've lost 2 bars, but it's on 0 watts because it's resting again. The heating comes on and off, and we've got 11 minutes to go now. 11 minutes to go on the clock, and I think little Bluetti is going to do it. I think we're going to make bread with a Bluetti EB70. That's it. Finished with 3 bars left, if you can see that. Light outside is quite bright, so 3 bars out of 5 left. Time is finished. I'm going to let it cool down, but take a quick peek. Wow. Oh, does that smell good? Mmm. Success with the Bluetti EB70 making bread. Let it cool for a few minutes and then we'll take a look at the bread. Now for the moment of truth. And the bread maker came with this funny little oven glove. But let's see. You got to use it to pull this thing out. It's still hot. Oh, that smells gorgeous. Let's see how it came out. Does it come out of the pot easily? Still very hot. Wow. See, these don't need much cleaning. It comes out very clean. There's a little bit of dough around the paddle, but otherwise the bread is nice. It's kind of a bit lopsided, slopes down a bit to the back, but hey, what can you beat this with homemade? I don't know, but this was made on solar power using the Bluetti EB70, and it only used 2 bars. 2 bars have gone. We still got 3/5 of the battery power left. So I'd call that a success. And it's got a nice crusty hollow sound, the bread. Wow. for the world's cheapest bread maker from Lazada, which is the equivalent of Amazon. This is amazing. And it's not made in China. It actually says it's made in Thailand, and it uses less than 500 watts. I think the maximum we saw was 470 watts. So that's really good. It doesn't use much power. Next time I'll plug in the kilowatt meter and see how many kilowatts it used. But I think looking at it, it's probably about half a unit of electricity. 500 watt hours. Okay, so we'll call that a success. You can make bread with the Bluetti EB70, and it is actually an acceptable loaf. Not perfect looking, but good enough. So the proof of the pudding is in the tasting, as they say. So let's check out this bread. Wow, nice and white. How's it taste? Good flavor. Nice crust. Nice crumb to it too. Wow, that's really impressive. Cooked with solar power. Wow. Everything comes from the sun. Even the chicken's egg, which ate the grain which was made by the sun. But yeah, you can make bread using the EB70 and it works. That's very tasty.